What's up guys, it's Tommy here and welcome to another video where we will explain the Manchester City huge court case loss against the Premier League and what this could mean with regards to the relegation and potential huge repercussions of the 115 charges against Manchester City. So Man City, in an unprecedented move, sued the Premier League and they challenged the Premier League's rules in 25 different aspects, and in 23 of them Manchester City have lost. That's the bottom line. There were only two cases which Manchester City challenged the Premier League rules, which the court found that the Premier League rules are unlawful in 2 instances of 25. And one of the Manchester City lawyers who used to work for Man City, doesn't work for Man City anymore, but he posted one of the myths remain that Man City sought to bring down all of the profit and sustainability rules and all of the associated party transaction regulations. And he said that part of the reason Man City lost on a key point was because they accepted the principle of PSR and that the ex post, where transactions are evaluated after they occur, regime is not a restriction of competition. But this is not a myth. This is fact that Man City in fact wanted to completely get rid of fair market value sponsorship deals and associated party transactions. That's what they call it in court. But basically Man City wanted to have sponsorship deals that have any value that they would think is deemed acceptable, and they would sponsor themselves for unlimited amounts of money. They don't care about the Premier League, they don't care about the good of football. They just want to spend whatever they like, and that's what they challenged. They challenged the actual rules of the Premier League, which say that you only can have sponsorship deals which are fair market value, and the court upheld that Premier League rule. And this is the biggest thing that Man City lost on. And in the court case, you can see that Manchester City make 2 submissions. First, it says the subjecting sponsorship rights to a fair market value test is by its nature distortive of competition, since different sports may value sponsorship opportunities differently. I mean, here it is in black and white that Man City challenged the sponsorship deal fair market value rule. And they wanted the Premier League to get rid of it. It goes on to say, one cannot objectively price the value of a sponsorship agreement. This is what Man City were arguing in court against the Premier League. Secondly, Manchester City submits the ability of the board to restate a price in an associated party transaction constitutes price fixing that is an object restriction of competition. So even the Man City associated journalists and lawyers who used to work for Man City are lying through their teeth, saying that this is a victory for Manchester City and the Premier League has unlawful rules. Just only 2 instances were found to be unlawful. The rest the court upheld. So Man City were arguing in court that they are unable to accept that the associated party transaction rules are inherently incapable of capturing the specific features of a particular sponsorship agreement, and for that reason are by their nature distortive of competition. So they wanted to get rid of these fair market value sponsorship deals. They just wanted to have sponsorship deals which have any value that they deem, right. The second submission by Manchester City was that the associated party transaction rules involve price fixing of a kind that is an object restriction. The Premier League has set up a mechanism whereby the price in a sponsorship deal can be restated or refixed. This, in our view, cannot be equated to price fixing in a horizontal carter as referred to in ESL. So thankfully the court upheld. And the lawyer website has a brilliant breakdown about who actually won the Manchester City case. So I want to go through the major points in this video to actually make it crystal clear who actually won this case, because there are a lot of different opinions and a lot of different, journalists writing different things. But the journalists who argue that Man City won the court case, that they are in the pockets of Manchester City. Man City are easily paying off these journalists. It's pocket change for them, and also they are paying off the referees in the Premier League, some of them at least, I'm pretty sure, because it was proven that Michael Oliver went to referee in the same league which is paid by the Manchester City owner. But that's a different topic. So Man City made a range of allegations that these fair market value sponsorship deals were in breach of competition law. And the tribunal in court found in favor of Man City on 2 grounds, but it did not find that these rules are in breach of competition law. In 23 other counts, on other grounds, the court found against Man City. The tribunal found that loans given by club shareholders should not be excluded from these sponsorship rules, and they are as they currently are. So shareholder loans should be subject to the same rules as other APTs. Ironically, as the Premier League points out, Manchester City actually voted in favor of excluding shareholder loans in 2021. Newcastle United are the only club who didn't vote. The rest of the Premier League clubs all voted for this. Secondly, it found that a number of changes made to the rules in February were in breach of competition law. These changes were highly technical. In a sense, amendments in the rules would make it more difficult for a club to meet the fair market value test. However, they only related to these rules since January rather than since the original rules introduction in 2021. And Man City's all other 23 competition law challenges failed. Man City made a range of public law challenges to the associated party transaction rules, the fair market value sponsorship rules, arguing they were procedurally unfair. It failed on all but one of its challenges under public law. Man City also argued that the Premier League was discriminating against golf ownership, but the tribunal dismissed it. Man City wanted to overturn the Premier League's decision that the Etihad Aviation Group's sponsorship of the club was not at fair market value. And you can see these on 4 grounds they argued against this decision, and 3 of the above 4 grounds the tribunal ruled in the Premier League's favor. The court ruled against Manchester City. Notably, it found it was reasonable for the Premier League to believe that these transactions were not at fair market value. So Man City lost on this ground as well. However, the court found that although the Premier League had acted mostly with procedural fairness, it should have given Man City the opportunity to respond to analysis of the transaction. It should also have provided the club with certain aspects of data that it held in relation to part of the transaction. So the Premier League will amend their rules to abide by the international competition laws. The tribunal found essentially the same outcome for the first Abu Dhabi bank transaction. It ruled that the Premier League had breached these rules by taking too long, by about 3 months, to reach its decision on the transaction. There was a third transaction that Man City had not tried to overturn, but had claimed that the Premier League had taken too long to decide on. The tribunal found that the Premier League did take too long, by about 2 months, to reach this decision, but the decision will not be reconsidered. So most of Manchester City's allegations against the Premier League failed. It only won on the question of shareholder loans and some technical aspects of how fair market value is defined. Nevertheless, for the technical aspects, the decision will make it easier for the clubs like Man City to prove that their sponsorship deals are fair market value, but it will only raise the bar to where it was prior to February when the rules were amended. And the shareholder loans point appears not to directly advantage Man City, but rather could disadvantage other clubs like Arsenal, Liverpool, who have large loans from their owners. But the Premier League does not intend to change the rules to retrospectively include loans that have already been given. Apart from anything else, it will open the Premier League to further challenges from those clubs that it is unfair to retrospectively change the rules on them. Whether Man City might then challenge this approach, which some have suggested, is another matter. So Man City might keep suing the Premier League. It is a similar story with the public law challenges. Man City failed on all the challenges but one, successfully arguing it should be able to comment on the comparable transaction data are relied upon by the Premier League before it determines fair market value. This result will certainly make it easier for clubs like Man City to make their case to the Premier League over what makes a transaction, what makes a sponsorship deal fair market value, as it will be able to make a case over the helpfulness of such comparable transactions. And the Premier League said it will be easy to update these sponsorship rules by the way the club vote to comply with these technical issues that the tribunal pointed out. Man City argued that all the rules are now unenforceable and it is for the tribunal in a subsequent hearing to decide this, not the Premier League's 20 clubs. Both the Etihad and the first Abu Dhabi bank transactions will need to be reconsidered by the Premier League. They have said this information has already been given to Man City and it has been asked to give its opinion in relation to that information. The Premier League will then need to make a decision over that transaction again. It seems it will be a tricky ask for Man City to convince the Premier League to change its mind on the basis of the new information the league has now provided to Man City, but it is possible. So who actually won the case? The Premier League clearly won with the overwhelming majority of points. This is not me saying this. This is TheLawyer.com, a very reputable website, saying this. However, it is not uncommon for claimants to, in a dispute, to bring a series of challenges against the other side, knowing that only some have to stick to get a win. The relevant question is, why did Man City bring the challenge? What did it hope to achieve? We all know that they wanted the profit and sustainability rules and the sponsorship deal fair market value rules abolished, removed from the Premier League rulebook, and also that way they get an easier sentence in the 115 charges against them. The lawyer says the secrecy with the proceedings means it is difficult to know. If Man City brought the claim to ensure that shareholder loans are counted as fair market value sponsorship deals, to reverse some of the changes to the rules made in February, and to make the process by which the Premier League defines fair market value more procedurally fair, then you can argue Man City won. However, the public narrative that has hung over this case is that if City wins, sponsorship deals could be agreed without a fair market value assessment, and that hasn't happened. Thankfully, Man City aren't able to just claim any sponsorship deal for any amount of money, and Man City hoped for that to happen, and they lost. They hoped that the fair market value sponsorship deals will be removed from the Premier League law book, and that failed. So that means the Man City lost. But that might not be the end of the story. Man City may still try to argue that the breaches found undermine the rules as a whole. Simon Cliff's letter to clubs on Monday night suggests that this is the approach Man City is trying to pursue. He said that by virtue of the rules being unlawful in any way, they are entirely void and not capable of enforcement. It is plausible that this will form part of their 115 charges argument. The Premier League disagree, arguing that these are discrete points easily remedied that do not threaten the overall function of the fair market value sponsorship deal rules. The lawyer website has spoken to senior competition and sports partners and lawyers at this point. Senior competition lawyer said it will depend on what is known as the blue pencil test. Namely, can a blue line be put through to the offending sentences to fix them according to the tribunal's decision and not fundamentally change the rules in the process? In other words, are the 3 points on which Man City won enough to invalidate the entire fair market value sponsorship deal rules? Clearly, Man City will argue that they are. Given that these 3 points appear not to affect the purpose of the rules and are, according to the Premier League, easily fixable, this may be an uphill battle. Some of the lawyers we spoke to disagreed with Man City's view, others didn't offer an opinion, saying that it will be a judgment call. This could well be a matter for a further hearing. It is likely that the tribunal will decide itself whether it or the clubs should make this call. As is often with the way with cases like this, if you want to know who really won, wait for the costs decision. So ultimately, we will keep you guys updated on what happens in further hearings in court, but I just wanted to summarize the case, and now I think we can see it crystal clearly what happened and why Man City lost in 23 of the 25 grounds on what they challenged the Premier League rule book. And let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching, have a nice day, see you later guys, goodbye.